there is something that has been on my mind for quite a long time, and you know me by now. When something's on my mind, I decide to make a video about it, and that's what I'm doing today. Because I've been thinking an awful lot about how we're all stuck inside our own selves and our own experiences, and really the world would be a much nicer place if more of us could just learn to step outside of ourselves. Do you mean like this? Well, sort of. This is going to be really distracting for filming the video. Okay, if you want to be like that, I'm going to go downstairs and get some snacks. I'll see you when you're done. Okay. Essentially, what I'm trying to say is that we all have a tendency to see things from our own perspective, which is completely understandable. Our own opinions and our experiences colour all of our views on life and how we react to things. But it does mean that we have this tendency to not see things from another person's point of view. And it means that sometimes we use our own experiences and our own opinions to judge other situations in a way that's not fair. And the fact is, everybody experiences things differently depending on the kind of personality they have, or their personal preferences, or just the things that they've experienced already in life. Two people could go through the exact same thing and it will affect them both differently because they're different people. It's a real cliche, but there is that expression that you can't judge another person until you've walked a mile in their shoes. And essentially, if we see lives and experiences as shoes, go with me on this, everybody's shoes are different. Now, the fact that we judge everything based on our own experiences and how we feel, and we don't step out from ourselves, can cause really big issues. But I'm going to start by talking about trivial ones, because it's easier to change your reaction to a trivial situation. At this time of year, one of those trivial subjects is the weather. For example, you may have heard that recently in America, the state of Texas, which most people think of as being very dry and hot and sunny, is experiencing freezing temperatures, snow and storms. Loads of people have been without power, and there have been people who've died of hypothermia in a state that we think of as incredibly hot. Most of us look at that and think, oh my gosh, that's absolutely terrible. So it kind of breaks my heart that people have had to go onto Twitter and type things like, please don't write snarky comments about how Texas is failing to cope with what's going on, because they're not used to this. Because every winter, if somewhere has a snap of cold weather that is completely unexpected, there will always be someone in a colder country or area of that country who turns around and goes, well, it's colder here. And normally the people who are saying those things are the people who live in traditionally cold areas, whether it's the very north of England or Scotland, or parts of the EU where it's very, very chilly, or the very northern states of America or Canada. Those places are used to having very cold weather, they're used to having snow, and they have the infrastructure to deal with it. Places that don't normally get that kind of weather don't have the infrastructure to deal with it, and the people aren't used to those kinds of temperatures. I say this as a British person who lives in Cornwall. Cornwall very, very rarely gets snow. The last time we had quite heavy snow, I took so many photos and plastered my Facebook with them because it just doesn't happen down here. But the second that I say something like, it's -2 at the moment and I'm absolutely freezing, I know that I'm going to get comments from people who live in colder areas of the UK or the wider world saying, it's -2 and you've got an inch of snow. You think it's cold where you are? It's -15 here and I've just shoveled 2 foot of snow out of my driveway. With the greatest of respect, how does that help me? I'm cold now. You telling me that it's a lot colder where you live and you've got snow does not make me magically warmer. I live in an area that is predominantly rainy, but not as cold as other parts of the world. So my tolerance to very low temperatures is probably a lot lower than the tolerance of somebody who lives in, say, Norway or remote Scotland. But this happens every year. We get people who battle over weather, and it's not just the cold weather, they do it about the sunny weather too. If somebody goes, oh my god, I'm so hot, I just wish I could get cool, you will get somebody who lives in a predominantly very hot area of the world who goes, oh my goodness, that's nothing, it's so hot here and you don't hear me complaining about it. Because we're doing that thing of judging other people's experiences based on our own. Now, again, I said at the start of this video, it's not just trivial things that cause us to seem completely unable to step out of our own experiences and see how somebody else may experience something differently to the way we do. But the trivial things are the easier things to deal with, and it's not just something like the weather. Another way that people are really bad at stepping out of themselves and seeing that somebody else could have a completely different perspective to them is when it comes to their likes and dislikes, because humans in general have a real trouble separating fact from opinion. I remember a few years ago queuing up to see the Manic Street Preachers in concert. I was hugely excited, as I always am when I go to see my favourite band. As we were waiting, this guy walked past and he decided to stop as he was walking past to ask who we were waiting to go and see. And we excitedly went, the Manic Street Preachers! And he replied, they had one good song, 25 years ago or something. They're awful. All of you need to go out and get lives. I can't believe you're waiting for a band so rubbish. Now, obviously, his comments didn't stop me being excited about going to see my favourite band. But for a few minutes, it made me feel sad that somebody had felt the need to see these excited people who were obviously looking forward to something and just rain on their parade by stating his opinion as though it was a fact. And the reason he did it was because he clearly couldn't just step outside of himself for a second to see that, okay, those people don't share my musical opinion. I'm just gonna say, have fun and walk away. And these things seem so minor, and they are. But the trouble is, when it comes to the bigger things, that's when it's going to be a real problem. We end up just showing a total lack of empathy. And a lack of empathy is a huge issue, because if you're going through something, the last thing you want is to feel more isolated or unfairly judged if you open up about your problems. I'm just feeling really, really depressed. Yeah, but like, you've got a roof over your head, you've got food in your belly, there are plenty of people in this world who are far worse off than you. You need to just snap out of it. You don't see me complaining about things. And yes, of course it works both ways. Sometimes we get so wrapped up in our own selves and our own experiences that we do forget the many ways in which we're lucky and the fact that there are plenty of people out there having a worse time than us. But that is never a way to talk to a depressed person, because just like saying to someone, well, you're cold, well, it's colder where I am, isn't going to make that person feel magically warmer. Telling a depressed person, well, there are people far worse off than you out there, is not going to do anything but make that depressed person feel guilty as well as everything else they're feeling. And trust me, I say that as somebody who has really struggled with her own mental health in the last week or two. And yeah, I did try reminding myself that there are people going through worse stuff than me and that plenty of people are in the same boat as me at the moment. But that knowledge on its own isn't enough to just magically make me feel better if I'm depressed. And I had enough ability to step outside of myself the whole time I was feeling really, really depressed and literally just wanted to get back under the duvet and hide all day long, to think, if somebody else tells me they're feeling down, I am going to put my own stuff to one side and try and support them. But I still needed people to step out of themselves as well, because there were still people who would have thought I was just being selfish or dumb. The fact is, no two people experience life completely the same way. For example, several years ago, I had a bone graft operation. They took bone from this bit of my jaw and moved it to this bit of my jaw. After I had the surgery, I was quite high on morphine, and I told the surgeon, "I'm fine, I want to go home now, please." And I got out of bed, I got dressed, I went home, didn't drive myself, that would have been very silly. When I went to have my follow-up appointment with my surgeon, he told me that he had seen grown men sobbing and begging for more painkillers, whereas I was just like, bye! But on the flip side of that, not long ago I remember making a video about the fact that I had torticollis in my neck. And I spoke to someone a while after making that video and they were like, "Oh, I had torticollis. It was all right, it wasn't that bad." And I was like, "No, I literally was just weeping in my bed thinking I might be dying." You see, two examples of people going through the exact same experience but having a completely different reaction to it. And so before we judge someone, we need to see that everybody experiences things differently and everybody has a different perspective on things. And if we did that, instead of just imprinting our own views and our own experiences onto everybody else all of the time, I genuinely believe the world would be a better place. Let's all just try stepping outside ourselves. Are you coming downstairs or what? Yeah, I'm just finishing this video. I'll be there in a minute. Well, I'm just warning you, there probably won't be any crisps left by the time you get there, because I'm going to eat them all. I'm gonna go. I think I might have gone insane making this video. If you enjoyed this, or at least if you agree with me, please feel free to give this video a thumbs up. You can click on my floaty head if you would like to subscribe, and a link to last week's video is over there. I am gonna go look for some crisps. I'll talk to you next Sunday. Bye!